A suspicious man, a man with night glasses, or a man in the chair. Exactly these names appeared in different internet sources like Reddit or YouTube for the character whose personality is still remaining unknown. While someone thinks it's Albert WESKER, one of the Heizenberg's projects, or even a hooded man, the rest is convinced that he is Oswell Spencer. Today, I collected as many theories about this villain as possible, and we will try to reveal his actual identity. Who could he possibly be in Resident Evil Requiem? And a little spoiler, he is not Oswell Spencer. My name is Scyris Nova, and welcome to my new video about the man in the chair. Let's start first of all with the rumored information about this villain from last week's speculations. By the way, some of them I mentioned in my last video, so if you skipped it, go check it out. According to the Japanese insider, the man in the office is a very important character, described as cold, philosophical and knowledgeable in medicine and microbiology. Moreover, another rumors told us that this character is one of the most memorable villains in the game, similar to Nemesis, Wesker or Jack Baker, which are all antagonists from previous Resident Evil games. Furthermore, the recent leaks mention a certain specification of this character, namely his gold teeth. Gold teeth are usually put in after losing natural teeth, so they may have been implanted for him, or he'd intentionally chosen to implant them himself. Moreover, gold is a strong conductor of electricity. That's the likely explanation to it. The last but not least is a specific clarification of a device or something that was implanted in his back. The interviewer noticed that his hand possesses a device with extending wires, and the insider is assuming that those wires can be connected to the device in his back. That's all we can know for today about the characteristic features of this villain, and now let's try to guess his personality. Based on these rumors, there is a theory that the man in the chair might be a Heizenberg bioweapon project from Resident Evil 8, like the Haulers, the Soldats or the Storm. But since Capcom has stated multiple times that Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 were about Ethan's personal story, and that Requiem returns to the series' main narrative, plus with Koshi Nakanishi confirming that Chris Redfield won't appear in the game, it's clear that there will be few, if any, connections to Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil 8. That's why I want to immediately refute this theory and move to the next one. There were even more obscure theories that the man could be someone from Resident Evil Outbreak, or related to the Sadler family, or just a mad scientist assistant type like Igor. But I'll leave those for you. Let me know in the comments what you think about these latest rumors. Now I would like to move on to one bigger theory that surprised me personally. There is a speculation that the hooded man who killed Grace's mother 8 years ago is the man in the chair, and that the scars and stitches we see are burn marks from that same fire scene in the trailer. But I personally think they're two different people by two reasons. First of all, the hooded man acts more like someone's subordinate, kind of like a Ganado from Resident Evil 4. What I mean is that, to my mind, he clearly follows someone's direct order, which fits the behavior of a controlled bioweapon. In this case, I don't think he looks like a controlled bioweapon. He controls himself on his own. Secondly, if we assume that they are the same person, then it raises one bigger question. Did he act alone 8 years ago? Did he personally break in, kill Elisa, steal the documents, and take out the hotel rep all by himself? Actually, Capcom already hinted that this man is somehow connected to Umbrella, meaning there is likely someone above him pulling the strings. To my mind, he might be just a simple boss, new boss, in a new Resident Evil game, as in all previous Resident Evil games, the same tradition and the same custom. But what if he is actually Oswell Spencer or Albert WESKER? Let's dwell on this idea. On the one hand, he does look a lot like Spencer. The head shape, the way he sits in the chair, that slicked back hair, plus the very idea of returning to Raccoon City, a town once controlled by Umbrella, kind of fits Spencer's legacy. But on the other hand, there are many things that contradict this idea, both from Resident Evil 5 storyline and from simple logic. Bringing Spencer back in Resident Evil 9 would mean, attention, rewriting a major part of the canon and honestly spitting in the face of Resident Evil 5 narrative. His body was shown. His death was confirmed, visually, in documents, and even later referenced in multiple games like Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 7, and Village. So if Capcom really wanted to bring him back, they'd have to choose one of a few extreme options. Either say that Wesker actually killed a clone or some sort of hologram, yes, the theory actually exists online, or introduce a resurrection or mold-based technology retroactively, like meaning that it existed way before Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, or claim that someone, or maybe Spencer himself, preserved his DNA or consciousness, which breaks the internal logic of Resident Evil 5 and later Resident Evil 7 and Village completely, since that would imply that Spencer somehow clone himself or survive through mold-like means. Yes, in the Resident Evil 5 DLC, we even read Patrick's notes saying that Spencer isn't the kind of man who just dies easily and that he still had big plans for his ideas and philosophy. But let's not forget, Resident Evil 5 is not just an action zombie shooter with some kind of a wonderful story. It's a story built on clear theme, the creation rebelling against its creator. Spencer is an aging, powerless ideologist obsessed with creating a new humanity through viruses. Wesker, on the other hand, is that creation, the evolved result who rejects his own god. When Wesker killed Spencer, it symbolized the fall of the old ideology, like the end of godlike genius era and the rise of uncontrollable monsters born from those same ideas. Just imagine this, if Spencer suddenly comes back, then Wesker's entire arc loses its own common sense. His killing Spencer would no longer be a symbolic ending, just like a temporary pause. And if we push that through further, Spencer's return would also undermine Resident Evil 7 and Village, games where his spirit already lives through Miranda's philosophy and the connections. Resident Evil 9 would then risk turning into a kind of soap opera to my mind, with villains who never truly die and just keep coming back forever and forever. That kind of thing worked for Wesker in Resident Evil 5, yes, because back then the lore wasn't as deep as it is now with Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, and the whole Connections organization. But doing that now with Spencer would have serious consequences on the story's credibility. Capcom, be careful, please. Now, let's think logically for a second. Imagine Capcom releasing a new trailer where this mysterious man appears more and more often. Nobody knows for sure. Is it Wesker or Spencer or maybe someone else? Why would Capcom then spoil one of the most iconic figures in Resident Evil before the game even comes out? Just imagine you're playing Resident Evil Requiem and suddenly, boom, one of them appears out of nowhere. That's the kind of wow moment Capcom loves to create. So why would they ruin that surprise in a trailer? It wouldn't make sense, especially when journalists and fans value story twists so much. So it's far more likely that Capcom is intentionally misleading us, combining visual elements of both Wesker and Spencer to confuse the audience and fuel speculation. Considering all that I said before, I am pretty skeptical and not sure that the man in the chair is actually Spencer. I'm not already talking about Wesker, guys. He doesn't look like Wesker. Wesker is dead in Resident Evil 5 and he must not appear in Resident Evil franchise anymore. His story is over. I could also try to define these correlations between Brandon Bailey and this man in the chair according to the rumors, but I don't think it's Bailey either because, as you know, he's dealing with the connections right now, and this man in the chair according to Capcom is related to Umbrella. So let's not overthink too much. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and we'll see how it goes in the game. And that's it for my new video about a man in the chair. As you saw, I got a lot of interesting but different theories about who this man could possibly be. And what do you think about him? Write your opinion or thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see, maybe I lost some surprising leak that is useful for us, but you, on the contrary, found it. At the end, we'll reveal everything, so let's speculate together for now. That's it for today. Don't forget to put a like button and subscribe to this channel, because more and more content is coming ahead about Resident Evil Requiem. My name is Scyris Nova, and thank you for watching this video about a man in the chair.